When Hadi returned home after a great outing, he was feeling quite refreshed. It had been 3 days since he had come back home, and on this particular day, he found his house to be a place of intrigue. His mother, Rumeysa, was lying down, weak and ill. Hadi had learned from his father that she hadn't eaten anything since his departure. Filled with worry, Hadi approached his mother, and his heart ached at the sight of her fragile state. Despite his arrogant, rude and spoilt brat demeanor in the world, he had a deep affection for his parents.
Mama?
What is this childishness? Hadi asked, his voice laced with disbelief. Rumeysa, her face pale and drawn, placed her hand over her eyes, trying to hide the tears that threatened to spill over. She had been dreading this conversation, but she knew she couldn't put it off any longer. Even after hearing Hadi's voice, she pretended not to notice, her heart pounding in her chest.
Mama, please.
Hadi persisted, his voice soft and pleading.
What, please?
Haven't I already told you to marry that girl? She's in trouble. Can't you do this one thing for me? Can't you? Rumeysa said, her voice trembling with emotion. Mama, you are asking me to get married. Is this some sort of doll's play? Hadi asked, his voice laced with frustration and confusion. Hadi, listen, Rumeysa said, her voice firming up. I'm only asking you to get married. If, in the future, you find her unworthy of being your life partner, you can divorce her. But for now, I need a relationship to take her with me. I have nothing to hold on to, by which I can take Masuma from her greedy uncle. Hadi's eyes widened in surprise. He had never considered marriage before, and the idea of entering into such a serious commitment so suddenly was overwhelming. Mama, he began, his voice hesitant, I don't even know her. How can I marry someone I've never met? Rumeysa sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping. I know it's a lot to ask, Hadi, she said, her voice filled with sadness, but I'm begging you. Masuma is a good girl.
She's kind, intelligent, and beautiful. She deserves a better life than the one she's living now.
Then came the moment when Hadi had to bow down to his mother's persistence. He got married, but the very next day, without informing anyone, he left for the USA. Rumeysa was saddened by Hadi's abrupt departure, but she found solace in the fact that she had brought Masuma with her to Dhaka after the wedding. Since Rafiq had already returned home after the vacation, Rumeysa decided to stay back for a few more days. It took around 7 to 8 months for Masuma's visa to be approved. During this time, she entrusted Masuma's care to a relative in Dhaka named Sabiha. A divorcee who had chosen not to remarry after her first marriage ended, Sabiha was delighted to take Masuma under her wing and care for her attentively. 8 months later, when Masuma's visa was processed, Rumeysa brought her to the USA. As Sabiha bid farewell to Masuma at the airport, the girl wept uncontrollably, her heart aching with the realization of another separation from her mother. At that moment, Rumeysa found herself deeply attached to Masuma. Watching Masuma wipe her nose with the corner of her hijab, Rumeysa couldn't help but feel a surge of affection for her. She smiled at her and placed a kiss on her forehead. As Masuma finally returned home alongside Rumeysa and Rafiq, her gaze swept the house, her heart filled with a peculiar blend of emotions. The unfamiliar surroundings evoked a sense of nervousness, but there was also an inexplicable excitement bubbling within her. Her heart skipped a beat as she thought about Hadi, the man who had saved her from her uncle's clutches and had married her at his mother's insistence. When she learned that Hadi was pursuing his education in a different state, a wave of melancholy washed over her. His absence left a void in her heart. Rumeysa, sensing her daughter-in-law's sadness, continued to talk about Hadi, painting a picture of him as her knight in shining armor. Masuma listened intently, her heart yearning to hear more about the man who had become her husband. As the days turned into weeks, Masuma impatiently awaited Hadi's arrival. She eagerly anticipated the moment when she would finally meet him, the man who had unknowingly captured her heart. Rumeysa, meanwhile, undertook a deep cleaning of the house, preparing for her son's return. Masuma joined in to help, but her anticipation reached its peak when Rumeysa cleaned Hadi's room. Whenever Masuma entered his room, her heart swelled with joy. She imagined Hadi in his room, studying, sleeping, or simply relaxing. She longed to know more about his life, his dreams, and his aspirations. The days leading up to Hadi's arrival were a blur of anticipation and excitement for Masuma. She spent countless hours daydreaming about their first meeting, wondering how he would react to her. Would he recognize her? Would he be as handsome as Rumeysa had described him? Her heart pounded in her chest as she imagined their eyes meeting and the spark of connection igniting between them. She meticulously cleaned every nook and cranny of his room, washed his clothes with extra care, and even ironed them with precision. Sometimes, she would gently open his perfume bottle and let its fragrance envelop her, allowing herself to imagine him standing beside her. Or she'd try to catch a whiff of his scent that lingered on his clothes, cherishing the lingering connection. In the quiet of the night, she would secretly press his shirt against her chest, the fabric soft against her skin, holding it close as she drifted off to sleep. Rumeysa wasn't oblivious to Masuma's actions. In fact, she encouraged them, understanding the young girl's unspoken feelings. She saw the longing in Masuma's eyes, the way her gaze lingered on Hadi's belongings, and the way she seemed to cherish every moment in his room. She knew that Masuma's heart held a deep affection for Hadi, evident in her every gesture. Gradually, Masuma settled into her new life in the USA. She enrolled in a local college, diligently pursuing her education while fervently waiting for Hadi's return during vacations. However, Hadi rarely visited home during holidays. He often traveled to different countries with his friends, immersing himself in new cultures and experiences. As time passed, Masuma's feelings for Hadi deepened. She carried his image in her heart, his face etched in her mind. The wait for Masuma finally came to an end. With a few days left before Hadi's vacation ended, he decided to pay a surprise visit to his home in the USA after touring London. He had been distant from his parents for a while due to his busy schedule, but now he felt the longing to see them again. He made up his mind to surprise his parents without revealing his plans to anyone. As he pulled up to the familiar house, a wave of nostalgia washed over him. He had spent many happy years here, and he couldn't wait to see his parents again. When the doorbell rang, Masuma hurried to open it. At that moment, she was expecting her father, Rafiq, to return home. She often opened the door to welcome him, and he always handed her a bunch of chocolates. Masuma had become familiar with Rafiq and Rumeysa, and she had brought joy and laughter into their lives. As she opened the door, she froze in her tracks. Before she stood the prince of her dreams, tall, handsome, and with a kind smile. For a moment, it felt unreal, then her heart started pounding with excitement. Her eyes lowered with shyness, and in that unfamiliar moment, Hadi cast a glance her way before entering the house.